All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. If it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you, co-hosted by Family Councils Ontario and CARP Ottawa. My name is Taeyang Zhang. I am the event and project manager at FCO. Today's guest speakers are Norris-Dudley and Lindsey Passfield-Leu, who will be presented by Carol Duke from CARP shortly after my introduction. So before we start, I would like to take a moment to recognize the land on which we are gathered today. We are meeting on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. It is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. We wanted to share a few logistics and housekeeping rules before we turn things over to our presenters. First, I will like to remind you that you are all in listen-only mode. We have reserved time today at the end for an interactive question and answer period. At that time, we invite you to use the Q&A box to ask your questions to our guest speakers, and you can do so throughout the presentation, and we will address it at the end. If you are experiencing any technical difficulties or issues, feel free to write it in the chat box, and I will help you out with that. And also, today's session will be recorded and it's going to be available to participants. And if you want to share it with anybody on Family Councils Ontario's websites and YouTube channel next week. So now it's my pleasure to turn it over to today's co-host, Carol from CARP Ottawa, to introduce our speakers.
Hi, thanks very much. We're a small little group of a working group out of CARP Ottawa. It's not just Ottawa. There's two of us that live outside of those esteemed areas. But we're the local chapter, and the push has been for a small dedicated group to really look at the advocacy role for long-term care for the residents and the families that need help speaking for it. You can go to long-term care, Change Long-Term Care Now website, and you can see a lot of what we've accomplished in the past. We have monthly webinars, and this one that we're doing today will show up on there very shortly. So it is my pleasure to share with you some exciting ideas. It's nice to see Ontario starting to have more and more of these new models of care. They're not new, but they certainly seem new to a lot of people. But it's nice to be able to hear about the journey that a couple of homes are having, and you too can be successful with this. Lori Norris is the president and CEO of Osgoode Care Centre, and she envisions the realm where every soul holds a spark of greatness within. To her, sanctuary for the spirit should be a place where life flourishes, not merely a realm of twilight waiting for the dusk and the embrace in the end. Within Osgoode Centre, where the Eden approach is embraced, a subtle shift in the very essence and existence unfolds. Here, the vibrant souls embrace life's dance, where the bonds of significance are lovingly attended. And I would really like to see how that comes to life. That it is very exciting. Lindsey is going to share with us the opportunities for meaningful engagement. Lindsey's goal has, for her, the programming team has addressed the three plagues that every family council knows about that goes along with living in long-term care: hopelessness, helplessness, and boredom. Principle number one for the Eden alternative is to tackle all these areas. So getting to know a person's story and who that person is still forms the basis of their programming and their strategies in their home. It is also paramount in all aspects of care and service that they provide to those who live at Osgoode Centre. So we're really looking forward to hearing what you have to share. Over to you.
Hi, and thank you for the introduction, and thank you for the invitation to present today to you, to everyone on our Eden journey. Lindsey, there we go. So just a little bit about us. We are a small but mighty little home situated in rural Ottawa South in the community of Metcalfe, and it's home to 100 elders. Our home is a not-for-profit center that is overseen by a committed volunteer board of directors. The home was established in 1982, opened in 1986, and then the home underwent an expansion in 2004, adding an additional 30 beds for a total of 100. So our Eden Alternative journey started at a retreat in 2016, and we were introduced to the model of care and Dr. Bill Thomas. And so who is Dr. Thomas? So Dr. Thomas is a Harvard-educated geriatrician who watched and listened to life in a nursing home where he worked. He witnessed the institutional model that breeds 3 deadly conditions of the human spirit: loneliness, helplessness, and boredom. One day on his rounds in the home, an elder whispered to him, "I'm so lonely." So Dr. Thomas and his wife, Jude, envisioned an environment where people could live and thrive, not just wait until the end. Their vision of creating a caring, inclusive, and vibrant community led to the founding of the Eden Alternative. So the Eden Alternative focuses on moving away from the institutional hierarchical model of care into a constructive culture of home where elders direct their own lives. The philosophy itself is focused in the care of the human spirit as well as the care of the human body. So at Osgoode Care, you feel and see something that's different. The center, because it shows meaningful relationships, and they're nurtured, and people are engaged in life. There is a brightness in the air, which reflects both living with purpose, as seen daily through the connections and interactions. Next slide. Great.
Having a little technical difficulty here. 1 second.
That's okay. So what is the Eden Alternative approach to care? So we focus on the importance of relationships and know that they grow in the moments when staff are with the elders completing their tasks. The philosophy also discourages medical treatment that does not benefit the elder. So at the Care Centre, you will feel the power of care partnership. The needs of the caregivers are not separate from the needs of the receivers. Well-being for everyone is a key ingredient and very important. So opportunities to give and receive are alive in every moment. Close relationships grow when the daily rhythm is defined together. So we learn together, we grieve together, we celebrate or just be together. So what is the Eden Alternative movement? So the Eden movement deconstructs negative attitudes about aging and changing abilities. It produces creativity, innovation, and highly engaged teams. It fosters deeper confidence, satisfaction, and a strong sense of ownership. So well-being is a human right for everyone who works and lives in the home.
So to understand about the Eden Alternative, it's important to understand what the 10 principles that the Eden Alternative is based on. So as we've talked a lot, that in principle one, loneliness, helplessness, and boredom are destructive to our health and well-being. And as I think has become common knowledge now, those are the 3 plagues of long-term care. In principle number 2, a caring, inclusive, and vibrant community enables all of us, regardless of age and ability, to experience well-being, and that life revolves around continuing contact with plants, animals, and children. So I just wanted to show you some examples of how we've been doing that at the Osgoode Care Centre. So in terms of animals, where our doors are always open. So this is Jasper, who started to come as a puppy. This is my dog, and he's actually selling cupcakes for Cupcake Day to raise money for a local SPCA. And he still has his friend 6 years later who loves to see him every week. Oreo was a little rabbit that we had, and he was the best company for people, and he would often go out on tour and visit and snuggle. And sometimes when we can't always have real animals available to us, even the robotic cats and dogs actually provide comfort and company to some of our residents. Other things we've had horses come and visit. We have an annual horse parade organized actually by one of our PSWs who's quite involved in the horse community. And for this woman who had lived her life with horses, that was a very special moment. The birds, these 2 little cockatiels were the friendliest 2 that like to go and visit. And on our wish list is actually to have more of an aviary here. And sometimes we have other visiting animals that come in to provide company. And I love this picture because you can just see that connection that this woman is having with this lionhead rabbit. In terms of plants, we've got some raised garden beds out the backyards where we grow vegetables, tomatoes. We always have an annual toasted bacon and tomatoes sandwich lunch, reaping the wealth of our gardens, and having connections with flowers. 2 of our programmers went and raided their neighbors' gardens with permission. And then we had a big flower making activity where people could take all these beautiful fresh cut flowers back to their rooms or put on their tables in the dining room. This was a picture of our lovely Tranquility Trail, but somehow it's not come up, sorry. And kids. There's a program, Babies Who Volunteer, where local parents will come in once a month and bring their toddlers in. And for this woman, this was the only program she would ever come out to, is when the children were coming to visit. The Metcalfe Community Association trick-or-treating will come in and share their costumes, and residents will get dressed up too and share in the event. And the Kindness Club was started by a 12-year-old who lived in Metcalfe, who showed up on my doorstep and said, I would like to bring my friends in once a month and do programs and activities with those people that live here. And it was like, this is awesome. So sometimes they would plan the activity, sometimes we would plan the activity. And one thing that this young lad came up with was a program called Pimp My Zimmer, which he had found on the website. So everybody's walkers got decorated one Saturday afternoon. Principle number 3, we thrive when we have access to the companionship we desire. This is the antidote to loneliness. So companionship can be on a one-to-one basis with staff using our Tafel, which we got set up in April. So just being able to play games together, connect, laugh. If I could have inserted the video of these 2 together, it was quite heartwarming. We encourage staff to go, take a few minutes, go sit outside in the sunshine, take some people outside. see how people are doing, reminisce, share stories. And even just having a couple of friends sitting in the pool on a hot summer day with water guns, beware, and just sharing some companionship outside. And this is Jonah the 11th. So this is a very special story. So a woman that lives in our home has always had animals in her, living things in her life. And she had said to the staff how she was very much missing having a lot of living things right in her own environment. So the staff on the floor actually went out and got her this betta fish that she has now called Jonah the 11th. So the 11th Jonah in her life. And he brings her such great company. And the staff have just stepped up. They help clean the tank. They help feed it, make sure Jonah's comfortable. And it's just a really special story how everybody's just trying to meet people's needs. And especially for the, if she's feeling so lonely, she now has great company, which is Jonah sitting on her bedside table. Principle 4, we thrive when we have purpose and opportunity to give as well as to receive. And this is the antidote to helplessness. So there's lots of different ways that we encourage people to give. So the Java Music Club is a peer support program developed by Christine Turer. And because she, again, going into long-term care, noticed the helplessness, hopelessness, and boredom. And this is an opportunity for people to reminisce, they sing, they share their concerns, they share their feelings, they support each other. And it's a really special program that we run here. And sometimes things happen very spontaneously. So as I was walking through the atrium one day, this woman was sitting reading to this gentleman who was having a bit of a bad day. And she said, now, don't be sad. I'm trying to give you some comfort here and read you a funny story. So even just that spontaneity was important for her to give and to share. And then we have a special story about hope.
So Bridget, a name of our, is a resident in our home who recently overheard Lori, a staff member, telling a colleague about the arrival of 3 new grandbabies. So congratulations, Bridget piped up, not realizing Lori was talking about butterflies and not her grandchildren. So Lori raises butterflies in her home. Bridget is a huge animal lover and was curious about how butterflies are born. So the next day, Lori brought Bridget a plastic straw with a chrysalis attached. Lori told Bridget, "You will probably have a butterfly in a few hours." So Bridget watched the chrysalis patiently. Suddenly, a miracle happened, she said. She saw 2 little legs appear first, then the wings. Then she said, "It's a girl," Bridget announced, after the butterfly was born. She named it Hope. So Bridget, Lori, and a few others went outside to have a ceremony for the wonderful monarch butterfly, releasing it to begin their long journey to Mexico. "It was wonderful to observe the wonder of nature," Bridget said. "It feels so good." So Bridget was touched by Lori's kindness, and Lori plans to bring Bridget more butterflies next year.
Mm-hmm. Principle 5, we thrive when we have variety, spontaneity, and unexpected happenings in our lives. This is the antidote to boredom. Oops. So, so this summer we had an impromptu water balloon fight out on a hot summer's day. I forget what else was supposed to be planned, but it was so gorgeous outside. The programmers took a group of residents outside loaded with water balloons. So as the staff were leaving their shift at 2 o'clock, they were getting bombarded, and there was lots of giggles and laughter and water and balloons all over the place. But just having that spontaneity, the dimensionability at work, is actually a picture of a gentleman folding towels for us. And there's a basket that says, please help us. So these are part of our Dementiability program that are set up around the home where people can just kind of, as they're can kind of walk by, and they might be invited to help, please help us sort these cards. So they'll sit down, and when they're finished, then they'll bring them back to the recreation area and say, oh, I've completed all this task for you. And you say, thank you. And it's just kind of, it's spontaneous, but it's also giving them purpose in their day. The other thing about spontaneity and is that we no longer have a printed program calendar that goes in everybody's rooms and goes on our website, because we also want to have more opportunities for spontaneity during our day. So we do have some set programs that are always regularly offered, because we do need to have some structure. People like some structure in their day. So they know exercises every morning, bingo's every Wednesday, pub is every Friday, church on Sundays. But then some afternoons might be, it's a gorgeous day out. How about we go outside and do trivia, or let's go have a barbecue. So allowing for some of that spontaneity within people's day, and not having it so task focused and structured all the time. Principle 6, meaningless activity corrodes the human spirit. Meaning is unique to each of us and is essential to health and well-being. So there's various things that we do to help give people meaning in their day, and making sure that what we are doing is meaningful to people. So for example, a group of ladies cleaning all the strawberries for our upcoming strawberry social. And this would have been something that these ladies would have been involved in their own community, either through their Women's Institute or the church, through their community center. The other part about meaning is also being part of a community. So with our Trishaw bike, we were part of the Community Without Age community, which Cycling Without Age, which is actually an international community. And this photo was taken a few years ago, where we were invited to join other Trishaw, other chapters in the area, along with the ambassador from Denmark, where the program started was in Denmark, and joined them for a ride from Elizabeth Briere in the Byward Market down to City Hall, and ended up at the Parliament buildings. And for the 93-year-old woman that we took with us on this tour, she talked about this for about 3 weeks, about riding on a bike through downtown Ottawa. Our MotiView program is set up, well, it gives physical exercise, cognitive stimulation. So as you're pedaling, you're also can watch videos where other people are cycling through various areas in the world, through beaches in Thailand. They actually went through my old neighborhood in Toronto one day. That was really fun. And for this gentleman, so we're part of the Road World Tours every year, which is a big international competition. So everybody who's part of the MotiView, we keep track of our kilometers. And at the end, we have a big celebration with medals and certificates. And for this gentleman, cycling had been a big part of his life. And he being able to get back to pedaling in a way and exploring different places was so meaningful for him. Principle number 7, we are more than our medical diagnosis. Medical treatment should support and empower us to experience a life of living. So there's various ways that we do this. So before a person moves in, we ask them and their families to complete a who am I and this is me. So getting to know some of their personal history, what are their likes, their dislikes, their routines, are they left-handed or right-handed, are they an introvert or an extrovert? What are their favorite foods? What are things that they don't like? So we really get a picture of who that person is when they move in. With our BSO committee, so that's a Behavioral Supports Ontario committee, we will sit down every couple of weeks and look at whose cup is not full. So when you look at the 7 domains of wellness, looking at things that like security and identity. So if people are not having good days, which cup is not full, and what are things that we need to be doing to help them to have a good day? We have our BSO RPN and BSO PSW are now certified in the positive approach to care, and we're working to become a PAC designated home. So this is a whole approach, a very person-centered approach to care, especially again, if people are having bad days, they're being more resistive when care is being done. They're more anxious in the evenings. What are those things that we can be doing again to help give them a good day? And we're also looking at we're also in the process of a deprescribing program. That's also one of the quality indicators for our annual QIP, our quality improvement plan, that we need to be submitting on. But it's also looking at what are those non-pharmacological approaches that we can be using instead of automatically going to medications. So a meaningful life is important, and a meaningful death is also important. So even at end of life, making sure that we are respecting people's values, respecting people's wishes. Through a grant, we were able to develop a serenity room so that the resident and their families can have privacy, can have meaningful time together, and also looking at having those earlier discussions about advanced care planning. So what is that person's values, their wishes, what's important to them at end of life, and what's been important to them during their lives? Principle 8, decision-making must involve those most impacted by the decision. Empowerment activates choice, autonomy, and influence. So in everything that we do in our day, it's important that we are that the people that live here are having choices in their life throughout their day, that we're not automatically assuming things for them. Having choices, even when somebody comes and they're looking for a chocolate bar, or automatically come every day and they're always getting a Kit Kat. It's always making sure maybe today they've changed their mind, they want a coffee crisp, but giving people choices and never assuming. Ensuring that people are in attendance at their care conferences. Sometimes it may be felt that, oh, they may not be able to follow the discussion. Maybe this is too much for them. It's important for them to be there, because it's also, they need to have that ability to influence decisions and to be actively involved in those decisions about their care. As required by the Long-Term Care, Fixing Long-Term Care Home Act, we do have a monthly resident council that meets, and it's quite active, and they come up with some very good ideas of things that we may not even think of that's important for them in their day. And of course, the food committee, food is very important in our lives. Involvement. And so another step is also really involving people in planning of programs and events. Sometimes people that work in recreation are planners and organizers, and it's like, okay, today we're going to have a breakfast club, but it's taking that one step further, actually sitting down with a couple of people about what should we have for breakfast club, picking out recipes, being engaged in the process of making that food. So we're not just doing for, we have to remember we need to do with. And it's also now taking that next step of involving people in committees and processes. Because for some of the people that live here, they've got life histories where they've been involved in accreditation. They've been involved in developing manuals. Maybe they worked in policy development. Maybe they were project planners. So engaging those skills, you know, and embracing the skills and history and experiences. And community meetings is actually a goal going forward. So where the resident council kind of includes everybody that lives in the home, but really breaking it down where those that live in a home area sit down with the staff that are working with them every day and having those open discussions about, hey, let's try this, or maybe this isn't working so well, and opening up that communication. Principle 9, if it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you. Being a collaborative and resilient culture is a never-ending process. We need to keep learning, developing, and adapting. So it is a journey. We're embarking on more staff education. We'll be rolling out. All of our leadership team is almost all trained in to become certified Eden Associates. And so the next step is now educating the staff on the principles and how we can go forward. It's also important that we walk the talk, that we're using the languages, we're being the role models, we're suggesting those changes that we see and being engaged with the staff to move forward. So the Osgoode Care Centre is now an Eden Alternative Growth member. So for us to keep that designation and to continue to grow in our journey, we need to submit an evaluation and a story on 2 best practices every year. And that's what keeps us moving and growing and adapting and developing. And it's really, it's like quality improvement. So we try things, it doesn't work, we evaluate it, we try something else. So we're never giving up and we're always moving forward. So our journey since 2016 took a little bit of a side road when the COVID pandemic hit. Residents were isolated, programs were ceased, but there was a lot of really good things that came out of that really helped to foster more of that culture change. So as people were isolated in their home areas, the teams working with the residents really gelled, the silos went down, everybody was doing everything and engaging with the residents more. So it wasn't, well, it's just recreation's job to do that. The PSWs, the housekeepers, the dietary staff on the floor were engaging with residents, getting to know them. Everybody was helping out at mealtime, everybody was helping out at care time. And that's really that goal at the end of the day, is empowering staff, developing those relationships amongst each other. And that has still continued. As Lori said, when you walk into our home, you will notice that. So while it was, a pretty devastating period to go through, there was a lot of positives that came out of that. Principle 10, wise leadership is the key to meaningful and lasting change. For it, there can be no substitute. And that's where we're so fortunate to have Lori as our fearless leader, who is never afraid to take on new challenges. And she's passionate about Eden, and she shares that passion with her leadership team. And you really need to have that person that's going to help to be the driver, because some days you can kind of get very discouraged, but you need to kind of be able to pull it up from your boots and keep going. And that's what's really important. So this just kind of is an illustration of the 10 principles and how they work, from the problem, the solution, the antidotes, the things that we have to change, and driving that process forward. So it's really a transformational change process in what you're going through. And with any change, it's you've got to take little steps at a time. You're not going to get it all done at once or in a year. This has taken us a few years to do, and there's still lots more for us to do, which is exciting. But again, it's making sure that those processes are in place, the support's in place, the staff are supported, and we're listening to what's important to the residents at the end of the day. So thank you for joining us on our journey to date, and it isn't over yet. And I just wanted to share some of the resources that have been helping us to move our journey along. So some of the things that I've been talking about, our Java Music Club, Cycling Without Age, Dementiability, our positive approach to care, our TOEFL, our MotiveU program, our Link Senior program. And for some of these programs, we've been able to acquire them through grants, like through New Horizons, through community donations. So we've been very fortunate that way to have the support of the outside funding to move our journey along. So if you have any questions, here is our contact information. And here is our website. So I encourage you to check out our Bad to the Bone video on YouTube. And also in November 2023, the CBC did an article, putting the home in long-term care means big changes and community buy-in. So very interesting article to read and shares a story of one of our residents that live here and what home means to him living in the long-term care, in a long-term care center. So, and thank you, Kathy Wright, for encouraging us to do that. So.
Okay, Lindsey and Lori, we'll just get moving here. There it is. Okay. Just trying to get my video up there, my picture. I guess Taeyun will do that. So thank you so much. And what I found so fascinating and really quite exciting to me was how wonderful your examples have been of how you've been taking on loneliness, helplessness, and boredom. It's wonderful, these activities. And I love the pictures of the residents enjoying themselves so much with all your activities. And you really have tackled those three pillars that's so important in the Eden alternative. There was a couple of questions I had while we wait for others to post their questions. You talked about how you want to promote choice, and you've tried to do this with getting residents involved in programs and events and so on. Is there any way that you're trying to incorporate on a day-to-day basis this choice with some of those tasks that have to be done with care? Is it possible in your home to sort of allow individual choice, say, with some of the tasks that occur? Or no, is it still the way it's always been? Either one of you, Lori or Lindsey.
I think that's been a big shift in our home also, is, you know, not everybody has to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to sleep in, if you want to stay up late and watch TV, if you, I mean, you know, there's always traditionally been the two choices at mealtime that you get to see, you know, what are your two choices? But if there's something on there that you don't really like, then there are lots of other options available to people too. So it's really trying to fit, the goal would be trying to fit what my daily schedule and my choices are and what my routines have been in my life moving into long-term care into those that are providing my care. So sometimes it is a bit of a challenge, but that's really ultimately the goal that we would want, that I don't have to be up at 6 o'clock in the morning. Thank you very much. Wake me up at 10 and I'll come and have a coffee and muffin.
Wonderful, I'm coming, okay.
Okay.
And same with bathing, right? That was always a very, you know, we have an opening at 10 or we have an opening on evenings, whereas we had done an ask to all residents or their families or both. When did mom or dad or your loved one have a shower? Did they have it in the morning? Did they have it before they went to bed? I mean, those are important choices that I want and the residents deserve.
Mm-hmm. There's a couple of questions coming in. Do you have a wait list, by the way, for the home?
Very long.
How long is long? Somebody would like to know.
Well, I know right now with the whole not enough beds in the system,
Right.
we haven't actually admitted from our wait list in over 4 years.
They've been coming
coming-
directly from hospital then?
Yeah.
Yeah, 4 years, wow.
At least.
Okay, and there's another question on staffing. So the staffing that you have, and it's good, you presented quite a bit of info on all of that in terms of education, training, and I'm curious as to how long that training program is to become an Eden associate. Maybe you could address that. But also, do you have difficulty hiring staff? Do they stay? Do you have turnover? How is the staffing feeling with this model?
It took us about 1.5 to 2 years after COVID, and I even hate saying that name, COVID, but it took about 2 years to level out. Now we had a sign, a billboard outside on the roadway, thinking that that's just one way to attract people. That has brought in more people. So do we have a hiring challenge? No, not today. Touch wood. This is probably the first time I can take a breath where it's like, good, this is coming. This is starting to turn a big corner. People want to come and work in the home. We actually even have people attending from other homes to do their placements here and wanting to actually join this home and leave the home that they were at. So
wonderful. And the training program, Lindsey, how long would that be? Or
So the Eden Associate training is 4 days.
3.
3 full days. And then rolling out the training to the staff will be a 1 day. I think we're just in the process of developing that right now. So we have an education coordinator now who's going to be taking on that task, and she's also a newly certified Eden associate too. So and she's quite passionate about our culture change journey. So she'll be delivering some pretty exciting education, I imagine.
oh, that's good. So there's a question here about cost. It's always about cost. So I'm trying to envision. So you have 100 beds. You haven't, have you physically done anything different since you moved to Eden, or is it physically looking the same? And what have you needed the money for? If you have, I guess it's programming where you said you went for grants for specialized things, but was there anything you needed money for to alter anything in your home to have the Eden alternative?
Well, that's a really good question, because yes, I would ultimately like to change some of the physical environment, but it's that is a bit challenging. So we have to be frugal with what we have. But we are extremely creative, and we have huge support from community for donations. And like Lindsey said, any grant opportunity, it's like, okay, let's think outside the box. I think we're pretty forward thinking and always wanting to do something different. So I think we jump on any opportunity we can. In terms of cost of education, it's never really been anything that's been on the forefront of my mind, because education is so important. doesn't have to be formal all the time. It doesn't have to be formal education all the time. It can be even huddles or walk-bys. You know, a lot of culture change is about the mentoring aspect of it, right? And that's the key, not just education. It's the mentoring and the coaching and the day-to-day and the celebrating and the crying together, learning together. That's always been my mode as a leader. And so I've really never given cost. Obviously, if I was in the hole, I couldn't do a lot of this. I'd have to do some of it differently, but education is important.
Good. Well, one of the areas you talked about and showed great pictures of were the animals that you've incorporated. I was amazed at the horse, actually. I thought, well, what a wonderful idea. I wonder how that worked. And then when you said that you had the program, I'm not sure what it was, but you had some day where the horses came and the residents were able to watch outside, which is wonderful. Have you had any concerns with IPAC in terms of having animals in the home and, you know, infection or anything like this, or any questions being raised in this regard?
No, I'll put a bottle of hand sanitizer beside the bunny if I have to.
No. You know, any dogs, of course, coming into the home need to have their up-to-date vaccinations, and we've got some volunteers that come in regularly with their dogs now, which is nice. And because you know, people here just, there's nothing like even 5 minutes of just petting and chatting with the dog to give, you know, help lower your blood pressure. Lots of research to support that. In terms of when Oreo, like the rabbit, you know, went to regular vet appointments. So it's, you know, making sure that we are taking care of the animals very well also. Yeah.
Yeah, very important. But you could see the faces of the residents around the animals. It was really nice to see. They just perk up, right? And
Oh, yes.
yeah, it really helps them. Just back to that staffing, I should have asked, is it mostly direct care staff, or do you have to bring in agency staff, or is it your own staff?
We had a bit of it. We had a fair bit of agency about a year ago, and now we're leveling off finally.
Yeah.
We still have some agency, but it's you know, again, COVID put everybody in the in the tank.
Yeah. And you did talk in your presentation a little bit about how you do include families or caregivers and so on in terms of programming. They came in with the music program, I think, and you talked about others, but specifically more about how are you incorporating families, caregivers into your home?
Well, they're part of the circle of care. I'll let Lindsey expand more, but they are vital to thriving in a new environment with their loved one.
Good.
And they became a very valuable part when they began to open up doors during COVID, and you were allowed essential care partners. So I've been working with the Ontario Caregiver Organization to really define our essential care partner program and really onboard families, because they also need that education of what their role is and embracing them as part of the team too, like what they can do, what they can't do, what can we train you to help to do with your mom, what kind of tools and resources can we give you, or if you're coming in to visit mom and it's not really being meaningful for either of you, what are some other things that we can help you so that you look forward to coming in and having a real good quality visit. And families are always encouraged to come in and include us in any of the programs. So if they're coming in to visit and mom's doing exercises, it's like, pull up a chair, come join us, or join us for music, and getting their ideas too. So yeah, they're a big piece of the team.
Volunteers, do you recruit volunteers to come and help? Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Good. I guess always a topic for me, I guess, is evaluation. So you talked about best practices, and each year you have to come up with two and write the report and so on. What sort of evaluations have you done that would show that your Eden alternative is working and that there is a better quality of life? Is it quantitative evaluations? Who gets involved in doing them? And are you associated with any university to get some qualitative, or no? Just wondering how you go about that process.
So there'd be some quantitative and qualitative research, research done. So every year we have to do a resident satisfaction survey. So we use the Inter-RAI Resident Quality of Life Survey, and that touches on many, many aspects of a person's life here at living in long-term care. So that's a good indicator. What are those things that, and actually, from our last survey, one of the areas that did not score high was something around the area of I have a close friend here. And I went, oh my gosh. But I think because of outbreaks and isolation, that it's hard to sometimes have those periods of connection. So we really work hard on developing those connections between people, even if they live in different parts of the home, of the care center, making sure that they're sitting together at pub or bingo or those things that they enjoy doing. So that's one way. We can also look at, people's depression scores, people's that's sometimes an indicator too that we can kind of look and see that we keep track of.
Okay.
And in terms of just kind of more qualitative, resident council is a good kind of barometer for how people are feeling living in the home. Are they content? Are there a lot of complaints? What types of complaints or concerns are being brought forward? And there's very few that come out of our resident council, really, at the end of the day. Feedback, I think, from families, concerns, complaints from families is also an indicator, which are really not a lot of. And usually it's just a matter of again pulling everybody together as a team with the family and the person that lives here, and just being able to retweak how things are done, or maybe we've missed something, or they and we come up with a new plan. So a lot of collaboration to help to kind of smooth out any rough areas that might be coming up. So, but with our tracks, there is actually a formal evaluation and analysis piece that we need to. So if we're going to work on, I don't know, time of day when I get to have a bath, I'm just pulling something out of so we can look at, from now going forward, how many people right now have a choice in what time of day they want to have a bath. And then we can look at and evaluate within a year, oh, we've gone from 10% to 75% now are having a choice. So using those kind of indicators.
No, that's good. I mean, and how about medications, psychotropics? Have they dropped off?
So again, that's one of the goals with our deprescribing program. Yeah, that we need to report on through our QUIT. So our goal is to decrease by 25% for this year. And I think we've almost reached that now, and we still have a few more months left. So
good. Okay, that's good. What would be an example of a couple of best practices then that maybe you've forwarded already, and so you're not telling us something you shouldn't, but an example of a best practice that you might say has occurred
through Eden? Like, so what,
what I'm not sure. Best practice. I'm sorry, Mark.
No, that's
And-
fine, Lori. So essentially you mentioned that you needed to send forward in your report, examples, 2 best practice examples, with your report. And I just wondered what you would consider to be a best practice.
Well, one of them is your spontaneous programming.
Mhm.
Okay,
And that's
yes,
huge.
okay.
I mean, that
Yeah.
that's very big. I mean,
I thought
because
that was great that you didn't have
Yeah.
a schedule and you allowed that. I thought that was very good. Yeah.
yeah, that's one. And then what was the other one that we did? I mean, we've done some.
It doesn't matter. You've answered it. It's good. It was a
And I
question.
think one of the things we're looking at, like going forward, is education. So that would be a real measurable. So like right now, we could say, you know, except for the leadership team, 0% of staff have had education on Eden, and that we hope by the end of the for the next coming year, you know, we're gonna have a real high percentage of staff that have gone through the Eden training.
Right. I have one other question. It's probably mine. I was on your website and looked through it and got a sense of this. And my one question is this: how do you balance risky behavior with independence? I saw that on your website, and I thought, how do we maintain quality of life and allow independence, but allow residents to take risks, which is always difficult because we don't want residents to harm themselves. Can you give me an example of how you manage that?
How we manage risk. I mean, I think everyone has the right to have a choice
Okay,
to live at some risk.
right.
So, you know, you have those conversations with families, and I'll tie it back to a restraint, you know, because if, let's say, my mom, she's got dementia, but she's still physically able to walk around and to move. She forgets her walker. And some families may automatically say, you know, I don't want my mom to fall. Whereas myself, all right, well, let's look at alternatives to help her. If she does fall, let's give her some wayfinding signs. Let's pimp up our Zimmer, which is the, you know, making the walker so that it's more noticeable, so that mom won't forget. And let's maybe put some cushions on her hips, you know, the pro hips, which is a fairly dignified alternative to use, so that if you do, you know, go and hurt yourself, it's less of a hurt. So it's educating families on that, having those discussions, and allowing the ability to have the choice to live at risk, a bit of risk.
I have to cut it off now. It's been wonderful. I've learned a lot, and I'm sure our participants have as well. So thank you, Lori, and thank you, Lindsey, for sharing your story with us. You've been doing some amazing things. We wish you well as you look at expansion and so on. So thank you so much for sharing it with us. Thank you.
Thanks for the invitation.
Thank you.
Over to Taeyong now.
Thank you very much, Margaret. Yes, I want to say another thank you to Lori and Lindsey and Carol as well for this wonderful webinar today, and thank everybody for being present and being so engaging. I also want to let everyone know that FCO and CARP are hosting, we're hosting another event in a month. The webinar is titled Creating Joyful Long-Term Care Homes, the Ireland Experience, and is presented by Anne Coyle, a retired health professional and advocate. It will take place on Zoom on Wednesday, November 13th from 12 to 1 p.m. So same time as right now. I will share the registration link in the chat. And there we go. And all the information is also going to be available in our e-bulletins and FCO's website. And a reminder that this webinar has been recorded and will be made available next week in Family Council's Ontario's YouTube channel. And if you have any questions for us or for the presenters, you're more than welcome to email us, and then we will forward them. So thank you very much for being here today, for your interest in the programming, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you. Have a good day, everybody.